Now, our next session is going to center on user-centric interoperability. Offchain Labs' work on interoperability for Arbitrum and Ethereum ecosystems. Please welcome to the stage, Stephen Goldfeder.
It's not me, but it's a nice picture. All right. Hey everyone, thanks for coming today. Really excited to be here. And I'm going to talk today about user-centric interoperability. And what I mean by that is, what are the tools that we need to build, and how do we actually go about building interoperability that works for users? There is an absolute ton of interoperability protocols. Every single L2, or us on the bottom here at Arbitrum, ZK Sync, Optimism, has announced one or more interoperability protocols. There's an entire industry of interoperability frameworks and protocols, and that's fantastic. But the problem is, if you think about it for a second and you just like pop the stack for a second, if there are 100 different interoperability protocols, we didn't really solve interoperability because you just have to have all these different pieces that themselves don't work together. If every 2 chains has a custom interoperability protocol, that is not interoperability. So the idea that the most trustless, the ideal path, and by ideal I mean the most trustless and cheapest path from chain A to chain B, the truth is it may not be the same path from chain B to chain C, and actually it may not be the same path from chain B back to chain A, right? So if you go from Ethereum to Arbitrum, you might use one bridge. If you go from Arbitrum to Ethereum, it might make sense to use a different bridge, depending on what your speed or other price tolerance preferences are. So it's good that we have all of these different interoperability protocols, but the problem is, how do we actually make sense of it in a user-centric way? How do we make these cottage industry of interoperability protocols, where it seems like every pair of chains has their own way to go from one to the other, actually work for users? So the first thing to note is, users can't keep track of this many paths. It's impossible to expect users, often who transact on tens or dozens of chains, to be able to actually keep track of all the different ways they may go from one chain to another and know, oh, if I'm going from Arbitrum to Ethereum, I'll use this. If I'm going from Base to ZK Sync, I'll use that. If I'm going from Arbitrum to ApeChain, I'll use yet a different path. It doesn't really make sense. Users can't keep that state. And even if they could, users can't analyze the benefits, the relative security benefits of different paths, right? We heard today a lot about EIL, but your average user probably doesn't, except for trusting the folks who are saying these things, isn't able to actually understand the difference between that and, say, an intent-based bridge or a native bridge. It's very opaque to many users. So how do we actually make sense of this? And what I propose is really, it's a two-front approach to interop. And it's really a wallet-centric approach. And the idea is, rather than selling all of these interop protocols to users or even to intent protocols, it's the wallets that need to integrate these protocols. And the idea is, if I want to go from Arbitrum and deposit something on Ethereum, my wallet should figure out for me, how do I go from step A to chain B? How do I do the steps? And I shouldn't have to do all these manual flows. And all the protocol work actually should be protocol researchers and developers presenting those to wallets, because the wallets are the ones that are able to actually make these choices and make these decisions, and the users then can basically make a single decision, is which wallet is best for me. And there might be one that prioritizes cost, one that prioritizes security, but ultimately the users can make those decisions, and it has to be a two-step program where the wallets really should completely ingest the interop protocols. If you have interoperability, you imagine this circle is interoperability. I think the world that most people think that this is the way we solve interoperability is like 90% protocol design and then 10% sort of everything else. But I think that's actually completely wrong. I think real interoperability today is 90% just wallet support. We actually have all the tools to do this, and 10% everything else. And over time, that 10% will get better and better and better, but ultimately, we have enough today to actually have excellent interoperability, but the big hurdle is getting wallets to actually support interoperability protocols. To take an example user journey today, imagine you're a user that has ARB on ApeChain and you want to earn yield on USDC on Arbitrum. Now note that ApeChain's gas is in ApeCoin, so you have to first get that. You have to swap your USDC, and if there's actually swap for USDC if there's actually liquidity there, bridge to Arbitrum, deposit, and at the end of the day, actually get ETH on Arbitrum because it's a different gas coin. At the end of the day, you're also going to be left with some dust on Ape, which is not going to be consolidated in your wallet because you're not going to be able to like time to the or figure out the exact cost of bridging. It's an awful and really, really terrible process. And this is actually pretty basic. Imagine that you wanted to deploy something on Aave on Ethereum or Arbitrum. It would be even more steps and even more complex. What this should look like, actually, is just one step. The wallet has a button that says, deposit USDC on Aave, or swap your coins, or whatever that one action you want to do, and everything else, basically, the wallet has a path for you in the background. And sure, there can be an advanced tab where users can figure out that path and swap parts and say, hey, actually, I want to pull this asset, or I want to actually use this other bridge. But the idea is there's no reason today that this slide is exposed to users. Really, the wallets should handle all of this and just say to users, what is it that you want to do? And in the back, we have the wallet can reach out to an intent protocol today to do that. And the good news is, and this is why I say this is all in the wallet support, is we know how to do this today. We should focus first on tokens, transfers, and swaps, because that's actually 90% of what people want today. And we actually have the tools to already do this today. We have intent-based protocols that wallets can directly incorporate today that would just solve interop and give users this one-step interoperability, this one-step UX that you just do what you want to do and the wallet figures out everything for you. So across and Relay, other solvers, we have excellent intent protocols, and the way that those work, for those unfamiliar, the solver monitors the chain and receives a quote. The user deposits money into an escrow. The user wants to go from chain A to chain B, so the user deposits money into an escrow contract in chain A. The solver fronts the funds on chain B. The escrow contract releases those funds to the solver on chain A once the solver actually did the task. And then the solver takes care of actually bridging and rebalancing of its inventory, but the user just gets a really fast action, a really fast bridging or doing whatever action it wants to do. And we know how to do this today, and it's just unfortunate today there's an extra step here where we have to go to Across's website and actually figure out these different pieces, but there's really no reason why this is not directly integrated into every single wallet today. And the truth is, this is not the end game. This is not the best because there's a lot of trust involved there. And we heard about some good improvements today of how we can actually remove some of this trust. But the point is that can happen iteratively over time. That can happen in the background. You can replace the internals over time. And in time, actually, it gets simpler and simpler. For example, as we have ZK protocols, we might not even need intents and solvers anymore. We might be able to do this directly. But the idea is the wallets should basically take on this task today and use the tools that we have today to give you an excellent interop protocol. And tomorrow, that may actually be more and more trustless because we'll take things like EIL and we'll swap that out for more trusted components. And in the future, we'll actually be able to expand this with not just token swaps and transfers, but on-chain messaging. But the core point is, these aren't things that should be sold directly to users. This should be completely transparent to users. The user uses a wallet, and over time, as protocol researchers develop new things, they sort of automatically get the benefits of what they're doing. But if you imagine your average user to be able to say, hey, I prefer EIL over this intent protocol, and actually to understand that, I think we're going to actually be in for a big disappointment and something that's not going to look very much like user-centric interop. So core principle number 4 of mine is when we build these native interop systems or these cross-chain, cross-Ethereum interop systems, they should be built in the most generic way possible, built in the smart contract layer. We don't want to see tight coupling between, say, a particular interop provider and a particular chain. It shouldn't be built into the protocol. The protocols might have custom rebalancing protocols. For example, Arbitrum has something called fast withdrawals that allows you to move quickly between 2 Arbitrum Anytrust chains. ZK Sync has their protocol. OPStack has their protocol. But generic interop should be able to ingest all of these and actually just be in a way that's actually not tied too much to a particular provider, because the truth is, in order to get cross-Ethereum interop, we're going to need to weave together many pieces in ways that users themselves won't be able to do, but wallets are in very good position to do. So what is Offchain Labs? My core premise until now actually is a lot of this is out of our hands, and a lot of this actually is going to just require better wallets and better support for wallets. But obviously, there is a lot that we're doing today. So what is Offchain Labs doing today? What are we doing today to actually bring forward this future of cross-chain interop, and how do we go about influencing that? So the first thing is we funded something called the OIF, the Open Intents Framework, to actually build open solver software that anyone can run on their chain, to have open source software that you can go ahead and opt into intent and solver-based systems. But the problem is often, large chains will be able to track the acrosses or the relays of the world, but smaller chains won't be able to, and they'll often be left out of this interop. And that's why we think it's so important to go ahead and actually build these pieces, so any chain doesn't have to rely on being big enough to get some solver to decide that it's monetarily or economically worthwhile for them to support your chain. But as a chain operator, you can go and do this yourself. So that's why we funded the OIF for this particular component. So any chain can actually go and participate. And on the wallet level, we got a little frustrated with the state of this, so we acquired a company called ZeroDev, which publishes this API where any wallet can go ahead and sign up to have to broadcast their intents to, and the API will actually go ahead, broadcast those intents to solvers, and you'll be able to participate basically in this today intent-based ecosystem. But the idea is tomorrow it might actually be a very different ecosystem, but the wallet and the API are the ones that are going to hide some of those details from the user. So why do we do it? Why do we believe? Why are we doing it this way? No complex protocol modifications. Again, that's the previous principle. It's generic. It's smart contract based, and you can plug in any chain. And this will proliferate ecosystem adoption of existing tools that we know work now. Again, we have Relay today, but how do we get the long tail of chains that those protocols aren't going to support? And the answer is we create the OIF and open source software so any chain can themselves join this Ethereum-wide interop ecosystem. But again, it's only going to work if we have really good and embedded wallet support as part of this. Another thing that we did at Offchain Labs as part of the OIF is we created this custom trustless broadcaster protocol based on Ethereum storage proofs. The idea is if you have a solver-based system and the solver went ahead and did a task, it needs to go ahead and broadcast that message back to the escrow chain, the chain where the funds are being escrowed, and say, hey, release those funds. Today, a lot of those protocols are trusted. We built a completely trustless protocol and contributed, and actually the OIF has smart contracts to implement this. The truth is, this is actually very slow today, and no one's going to use it. But again, it shows the progress that we'll make over time. So today, we'll have more trusted systems, but tomorrow, we're already laying the groundwork to have more trustless systems where we'll be able to, again, transparently swap that away from users, where users will just get a better and better and better interop system over time, but they won't have to, if you imagine that users will have to, if you can take a look at the QR code, go ahead and read the proposal here and understand it, like, again, they won't be able to, but that's fundamentally them going to be relying on their wallet service providers to go ahead and do that for them. So we're also building something called the Universal Intent Engine. The Universal Intent Engine pairs very well with the OIF, the Open Intent Framework. So over here on this side, we have the OIF. What the OIF does is standardizes around 7683 the messaging format for intents, and it defines how we lock those funds in the escrow, and it also defines how we go ahead and broadcast those messages back. And you can combine different pieces, and you can also use services like Across and Relay that go ahead and do that for you. But on the left side here, the Universal Intent Engine is slightly more broad and actually provides that API where a wallet can go ahead, this SDK where a wallet can go ahead and broadcast these intents and actually have this API where they can ingest these intents, find a solver to go ahead and participate. And again, with the OIF, anyone can join this themselves. They can join this ecosystem, whether or not the guys on the bottom decide to actually support that chain. So any wallet can opt in, and any chain can opt in to what's going to be a broad Ethereum interop ecosystem. But of course, one more time, this will only work well, and the best UX will only come if it's transparent from users and it's actually just directly embedded inside the wallets. So we're not done yet. Again, we have a lot that we have to do. Everything we described so far really just works for token transfers and swaps. We have something with ZeroDev called the multi-chain validator that will actually be able to do this in a way that works not only for swaps, but for complex action across chains. This requires the use of smart accounts, so you can actually allow the solver to delegate authority to actually do specific actions on those chains, like, hey, go ahead and don't just send my tokens, but actually deposit these funds, say, in Aave. So we are building that at ZeroDev. And again, today that's actually more trusted and requires a good deal of trust, but we'll be able to make that more trustless over time. The EIL, which was, of course, presented today, leverages multi-chain validators just like we do in ZeroDev. And actually, in the EIL, ZeroDev can actually be both a bundler and a solver. So the idea is that we should just adopt smart account solutions that will enable us to go not only from token swapping and bridging, but to generic smart contract support where you have funds on one chain, you want to do some actions on another chain, you can go ahead and actually just make that happen literally in one button click, and everything else will sort of happen underneath the hood. So what is the future state? So Ethereum's and L2s, as I said, the wallets, I believe firmly we should lean into the EIL and more trustless interoperability protocols. But again, do that in a way that cross-chain transactions feel like just single-chain transactions, right? We'll have this UX where we don't feel like we're a fragmented Ethereum, but we feel like we're one ecosystem where everything just feels like one chain, even though under the hood, it's many different chains. And that will come from direct wallet support and eventually direct app support in embedded wallets, right? Eventually, we may not even need these wallets. The wallet themselves may be embedded in most apps, and users can rely on trustless protocols over time, not just more trusted APIs that we have today. So we have a long way to go. But the idea is that over time, we can improve on two different verticals. We can go ahead and we can improve the trustlessness of the protocols by saying, okay, today we have a little more trust, but we have really good directions. Again, EIL is a great example to make this more and more trustless over time. Let's swap out the internals and also the functionality of the protocol, going from token swaps and transfers much more generically and broadly to just generic smart contract calling, generic message passing from one chain to another. So I'll end with a few key takeaways that I think if you spaced out until now, it's a good time to space back in. These are basically the key points that I have for you today. We have enough pieces to solve interop today. Interop will not be solved on a whiteboard. Interop will not be solved in a research paper. Interop is going to require us to take the pieces that we know how to use today and build those. And by the way, that's how we built Arbitrum. If you look at Arbitrum in 2021 compared to it today, it was terrible, terrible. It was slower, it was more expensive, the proofs were worse, but you have to meet the moment at the time. It was the best solutions for scaling at the time, and over time we replaced it and we upgraded and we got to it better and better and better, and we need to do the same with interop. We don't need to wait for new protocols. We have all the pieces today. We must put them together and put them to work today. Key takeaway number 2, we've built the components already to allow any chain to participate. It's not going to be interop just between the most popular chains, but any chain, even if they have very, very little usage, can opt into this cross-chain interop protocol and actually participate today in cross-Ethereum interop with this one-chain feeling. Number 3 is we'll replace the internals over time. As we get more trustless tech, that becomes available as we can get tech that is actually faster to do things like cross-chain generic message passing in a trustless way. We can make this better and better over time. But the time to start is not to wait until we have that future end state. The time to start is right now. Let's take the pieces that we have right now, and just like that SpaceX image, we'll make it better and better and better over time. But don't wait until the end state. That's not going to serve users today, and that's when we need interop today. We don't want to lose the battle today for some future state for tomorrow. And the final point, which was really my main point here today, is wallet support is the missing link. We need every single popular wallet to actually opt in and give users these flows that don't require them to keep state of all these complex steps that they want to do and figure out how do I go from A to B and then what do I do and I have to figure out how to get gas. Like, no, your wallet should give you a default path to do a basic user action. I have money. All you need to do is go to the app you want to do, press on the action you want to do, and your wallet should figure out where are your funds, how do I get them here to where you need to be, and all you do is need to approve that. And of course, you can go in and change that and not like that, but your wallet should do the heavy lifting for you of at least proposing a default path. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming today, and really great to be here.